What's going on, Ritchie? How's everything?
We are live.
Yes, yes. In true Douglas fashion, he said,
That's
"This
right.
means nothing, apparently," but it's a good hand motion. So,
It is.
um, very happy to have you here, man. One of my favorite people in the space, as I said in the Discord. Person that makes me laugh actually the most out of anybody, whether it's comments or on your show and whatnot. And
Or just at my expense.
yeah, that always that always works. Happy Lunar New Year. I wanted to make sure that we, said some graces there. And congrats to you on your newfound fame on YouTube. Started a channel, and now you have 4 different videos. I think it was me, Chad, RJ, and Spencer. And you did this series called, or you're doing this series called Beyond Credit, where you kind of get into the backstories of all of us. So if you want to check that out, it's in the pinned comment, the one me and you did together. But yes, I'm happy to now turn the tables on you, because when you asked me all these questions and you had me on your show, these are questions that no one's ever asked me in my entire life. And, I had to stumble a couple times. I didn't know what to say, best ways to die, all these different things. So I'm going to turn the tables a little bit. I want to ask you all these different things.
Okay.
A little bit later. But even though I asked you, I'll ask you again. How's everything today? You doing good?
Yeah, everything's good. Thank you for, that incredibly sweet introduction. No, everything's good. And actually, I might as well just go ahead and throw it out now if you don't mind. You said I have 4 episodes up. I will have a 5th episode up tonight with a very special guest. Incredibly special guest. I gotta make it sound as good as I can, because you know who it is.
Yes. Very good. Very good. I'm really excited for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully tonight, sometime between 6 and 7, it'll be up. So that'll be episode 5. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let's make sure you subscribe if not already, because I can't wait to watch that. And who do we got here? We got Cesar, Chad, Lonnie, what's going on?
Lonnie.
Vinny Boombots, who that finance, Kiki, and Calby was in here earlier, and you're repping some nice Calby merch today. So
I am. Like I said, I mean, you gave it to me for free. The least I could do is wear it up on camera.
Hell yeah. Kelby in the side chats has been messaging us like, "Hey, follow me on Pushy. Hey man, follow me on Pushy." He's like, "You would have known about that, build thing if you were following me on Pushy." So I probably should too, to be honest. I don't know why I haven't. But okay, cool. So the first thing I wanted to bring up with you, Ritchie, was actually I wanted to confront you about something. Right off the bat. I wanted to start out really hot.
Okay.
So I was rewatching some of these. What's going on, Dugras? I was rewatching some of these podcasts you did with all these fellow creators, and I just happened to finish the Spencer one, the most recent one. And around towards the end that I didn't get to in the past, you mentioned something about being excited for the Super Bowl and all these things and who you have your money on. But then you mentioned something about Taylor Swift in a very hateful manner. You didn't like that she was coming from the Super Bowl. So as a resident Swiftie, I had to confront you live and to let you know, like, hey man, actually let me just ask you, what's your problem with Taylor Swift, Richie? What's happening?
Okay, so here we go. My wife gets on to me for this all the time. I understand it's not her fault that she is constantly interrupting football by being on camera. I know that's not her fault, right? She can't control what the cameraman does. But I'm pretty sure she doesn't mind. No, it's just, I used to be same thing about the Kansas City Chiefs and Taylor Swift. Like, I used to be indifferent. Like, I didn't feel one way or the other about Taylor Swift, and I didn't feel one way or the other about Kansas City Chiefs. They were my favorite team, but I didn't hate them. But this year, man, I'm just so sick of seeing both of them. Like, I'm so sick of seeing Taylor Swift's face. Sorry, Swifties, if you're out there. No hard feelings. But my God, man, I just want to watch football.
Okay, so I'm glad you said constantly, she's always in your face. Well, on behalf of my wife, who is a diehard Swiftie, she gave me this article, which I actually can't bring up because obviously on the phone, but this article stated that over the last few months, Taylor Swift has only appeared per football game for Kansas City an average of 25 seconds per the entire game. So when you say constantly, I can't agree with you that it's constant. It's average of 25 seconds, man. I mean, you can't look at her for 25 seconds. Do you not like women that often? I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking.
See, I get it, but the mistake you're making, the
What's the
mistake you're
mistake?
making is you're counting 25 seconds as 25 seconds, not 25 football seconds. There's a difference between football time and regular time. I mean,
Mm,
think about it. A football game is only 4 15-minute quarters, right?
okay.
But it's on TV for like, you know, right around 3 hours, give or
3
take, depending
hours.
on how the game's going, right? So you can't count 25 seconds as 25 seconds. That's
Okay.
more like probably like 2 minutes somewhere in there.
But okay. Expressed as a percentage is probably less than 1%, but whatever. We'll let bygones be bygones. I just wanted to confront you live, let you know, like, we're the majority is out here, and, we have a voice. My second question to you was, who do you think's gonna win the Taylor Swift games tomorrow?
Oh, man. I hope San Francisco, but it's really just because I'm cheering against the Chiefs. I don't really care. I like Brock Purdy as a quarterback for San Francisco. I also know, I just want to say, having talked to a number of people in this community, there's not a whole lot of football fans in this community, as far as I know. So I just wonder, why are you trying to sabotage my interview right from the very beginning, Anthony?
Sorry. I just wanted to ask, man. That's what's happening right now.
Are you
Um
sorry? Are you?
No, no, of course not. She told me, she's like, hit him hard right out of the gate because he likes to mess with you sometimes. So all right. So I wanted to know beyond credit. So your series, sorry, MR, we need Chris Hansen to tell him to take a seat. Yeah, we need some of that. So on your series Beyond Credit, I love the series, and I remember I'm so proud that you actually, not like I'm anyone's to care about, but I'm so happy that when you gave me, like, you gave a lot of us ideas. I don't know who you're talking to, but I remember you telling me this idea for a series, months ago, and then just like, oh, just go and do it. So I'm very happy that now you're 4 episodes in, and I was really excited because you're not really asking about credit card stuff. You're going really in depth, and I really love your interview style where you talk to people, and you ask them like really deep questions that forces you your hand a little bit. So I wanted to know, where did that come from? Why did you want to start talking to credit card creators and their background?
So it's kind of a combination of two things. One, credit cards have become, one of my big three hobbies over the last couple of years. And two, I like journalism.
Mm,
Um, so originally, I figured I would just do a credit card channel, but I was kind of like, I'm not going to be able to do it as good as most of the people I'm watching now, and I don't want to just rehash stuff that's already been done 100 times. So I'm like, well, let me put a little twist on it. I'll take people who already have a following, people who know who they are, and like me personally, I like to know about people. I enjoy learning about people. So it's like, especially if it's someone who I already know about, right? I'm like,
mm,
so what are they really like? So I was like, well, let me just kind of put that little spin on it and see where it goes. Um, I will say it is Beyond Credit as it is a very neutered version compared to my original plan for it.
hmm,
And I spent a lot of time going back and forth about this. I would really like to go really deep with people about a lot of hot take topics. Like I love finding out how people's minds work and people's differing opinions on things like politics, religion, all these kind of like topics that can be very controversial. But
hmm,
after a lot of debate, I decided, since I'm going to be interviewing people who already have a fan base and stuff, I kind of
mm.
feel like it wouldn't be prudent to have you guys put those positions out there if you're not already, because I don't know, everyone's pretty divided now, and I don't want anybody to lose followers or anything because I asked them a question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, given
So,
this world for
so
sure.
it's
Hmm.
Yeah, but that said, I still have a lot of fun. I'm still my own worst critic. poor you, because every time I load an episode, you have to deal with me for the next 2 hours. Man, this like sucked. Why did I do this? God, I
No,
talk so slow and dumb. But
no,
thank you for always being there to lie to me and tell me that I did a good job. I appreciate that.
no problem. Always a good liar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you lie
I
straight to my
just
face. You're so good at it.
that's right. You're gonna put me to a polygraph next time when we do an interview.
Yeah.
That's right. We'll say, "Is he
Yeah.
really? Is he serious?" So I like that. I like that you really want to get to know people on a much deeper level, and like you said, especially if you know someone already, um, which is the people that you're, like you said, one of your three hobbies, in this world. So I guess credit cards being one of them. You like to watch some of these guys, and you want to know their background. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, you've been planning this for at least a year or so, right? Like, didn't you start reaching out to people?
Yeah, it was actually probably longer than a year.
Hmm.
I can't remember exactly, but originally I had reached out to RJ. I had reached out to Mark Plymale.
Nice.
Um, I had reached out to, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name right now.
Tourists.
um, Profitable. Yeah, I reached out to Reese. And I reached out to Bank Account Bonus Central. There we go. That's the channel.
Oh. Hmm.
And I sent out a mass email to all of them and said, hey, this is my background. I'm kind of interested in doing this. And they were all on board, um, except for one of them, which I won't name.
Yeah.
But but the reason they told me they weren't on board was because they were like, "Who are you?
Hmm.
You don't even have a channel yet?" Yeah, I don't have time for you. Sorry. So I was like, "Okay, noted. Thanks." Um, but yeah, and they were all on board. They were ready to go for it. And then I just, I mean, I use my job as an excuse. It does take up most of my time. It's a struggle. I work
Yeah.
average 60 hours a week, sometimes 72 hours a week.
Jeez.
Um, so it was hard to get it together. And then one day, Spencer Johnson puts up his first episode of Creative Conversations, and I was like,
Uh,
no, no. But it all worked out. And I mean, that's a great podcast. I love watching Creative Conversations. So, um, and it was easy to pivot because, like I said, you know, I talk more about questions that aren't typically asked when you guys, do your podcast together.
yeah. Definitely.
So,
And what do you think it was about? Because you wanting to make this podcast a reality, so kind of talking to people and getting to know them on a deeper level. This didn't just kind of happen out of nowhere. I'm sure you've always been very interested in people. Would you say that kind of comes from? That you want to get to know people on a deeper level, or ask like those hot button questions? You think?
probably just because I was a sad, lonely dork of a child and I didn't have a lot of friends, so I just wanted any kind of interaction with people I could get.
Okay,
um,
that's nice.
I'm only half joking. No,
Okay. It
I
happened,
don't
man.
know, man. I don't know. Like, that's just
Hmm.
always been my personality. Like, I just always want to know more about something, whether it be a person or, I grew up, people know I'm a huge movie fan. So, I was a terrible student in school, horrible student. Part of that was because rather than like paying attention to history or whatever crap I was learning in school that didn't interest me, I was like learning how, like, wow, how did they do that like certain special effect in that movie, or like how do they,
Hmm.
you know, do these stunts, or how did you know, whatever interests me, I would dig really deep into it,
Hmm.
like inside baseball kind of levels. Um, and that just includes people. That just is who I am, I guess. For everything, if it interests me, I want to know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I also know, just because we've talked on the side, that you also had an idea to kind of like, you want to go actually behind the scenes with people. Would you want to talk about the
Yeah,
inspiration for that?
yeah. Well, I kind of what I just said. Like it's like I was always interested in the behind the scenes of like filmmaking and stuff, and
Yeah.
just seeing what goes on behind the curtain interests me.
Hmm.
So I know there's other people who, share the same interests as me. So I'm like, well, that would make a great series. Is like, yeah, I don't remember what I was gonna call it, but it still
Mm.
might come to fruition. But I'd love to like get with you guys, you Spencer, travel to where you guys are, and just spend like a day or two with you and document like the whole process from concept to creation to putting it out there. That's that kind of stuff. I could watch that stuff all day long. Yeah,
Interesting. Huh.
yeah,
Because it's like, well, the problem that I think you'll run into though is like if you follow my day to day, it'll be like, all right, sitting in a chair and editing for like 12 hours straight. It's like, wow, look at it, such an eventful life, Anthony. Wow, you're doing so well.
yeah.
Just sitting in one chair. All right, let me go to the food store. Let me go to the the electric car charge. Let me go there. Okay, well, that's very nice. So, but I mean,
Well,
obviously, you create things to do. Maybe I don't know.
yeah, and like you say that, but I had this conversation with my wife earlier today. Like, and actually, you were kind of the genesis of the conversation. When
Hmm,
we talked, when we first started talking on DM, and we were just kind of like starting to talk to each other, and we were asking questions about each other and learning about each other. Like, I always feel like I have an incredibly boring life, right? Like, I'm like, there's nothing special about my life. My wife and kids are special, but I mean, on a day to day basis, I live an average, an average Joe life. But as you were talking to me and like you would ask me questions and I'd be like, yeah, I used to do this. And yeah, I did this military. I do this nuclear security, blah, blah, blah. Like as I'm typing these things, I'm like, it doesn't sound as boring as it feels. Like maybe my life wasn't that boring. Maybe I did do some really cool stuff. Eh. But, so I think my point is, I think a lot of people feel like there's not
hmm.
really anything that interesting about me, but there probably is. You just don't realize it because you live it every day.
I see. So you kind of want to have that perspective, like here, I'm a third party to look from the outside in, and you'll
Yeah,
find the interesting
yeah,
parts of it. I like that. I like that a
yeah,
lot. And so that's a perfect segue because I wanted to get into all the interesting things you've done in life because I don't think you've, yeah, painted yourself in a good enough picture. I talk
yeah.
slow. I'm done. All these different things. Like you've lived an amazing life so far, in my point of view. So let's start from the beginning, right? So I
Okay.
wanted to ask because you mentioned growing up and whatnot, and just you wanting to learn more. But let me ask kind of a question you would ask, which is, how were you as a kid? What type of kid were you? Did you get in trouble? Did you not get in trouble?
Yeah, I was pretty middle of the road, but periodically I would peak to either extreme.
Hmm.
I was pretty good as far as my parents. I I hate saying this because I don't want to sound like I'm like tooting my own horn or anything, but I always felt like I was a little bit more mature than kids my age, particularly in my own grade, which is funny because I started school in New York. But I moved
Hmm.
down here when I was like in fourth grade down to South Florida, so I was a year behind everybody else in my grade.
Hmm.
Um, but like I would see them, and they were, I don't know, they were constantly getting in trouble. I can't think of anything specific, but they were constantly getting in trouble for stuff that I would look at them and I'd be like, why would you even do that? Like that's so. What are you, a little kid? Which we were. We were in like fourth and fifth grade, but
Right.
you know. Um, but that said, as I got older, I got my own license. My parents would give me a curfew. And back then, we didn't have cell phones; we had pagers.
Hmm.
Anybody, Gen Xers. Woo. Um, so, so if my parents gave me the curfew, I would typically, I would intentionally be home a little bit before the time they gave me.
Hmm.
If for some reason I was going to be late, I would find a way to call them or to page them and be like, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to be home at the time you told me. I'm sorry. Here's the reason why."
Hmm.
If you need to verify it, here's whoever's parent can tell you or something, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
eventually I got to the point where they just didn't even give me a curfew. They just trusted me to. So at that point, sometimes I wouldn't come home at all. I'd just stay at a friend's house, but I'd call them and I'd let them know. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be home tonight. I'm going to be at Joe's. Okay. Be safe.
Hmm.
Love you. Um, that said, sometimes I did do some pretty stupid stuff. I was brought home by I think I just told this story with Spencer. I was brought home by the police one time
Yes.
with my friend. Yeah. So there's dumb stuff like that. But for the most part, I was a terrible student. Like I said, all my teachers, were like, he's a good kid, he's well behaved, but he's a terrible student. And that was just because I didn't care about what happened in the 1800s. Like history, F student all the way through. Spanish.
Hmm.
I'm half Puerto Rican. I failed Spanish because I didn't care.
Hmm.
Which
Wow.
my mom super proud of me for that one. Um, but science aced it.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's if it doesn't interest me, I just kind of yeah.
So would you say that that police story, which I don't know if you want to re-talk about, but basically you were out filming with your friends with like an old camera, right? And they,
Yeah.
you were at like 1 a.m. and cops
Yeah,
roll by.
yeah.
Do you
So
want to tell people?
as much as I can remember, it was a long time ago. But yeah, we had this old so this was I was a young teenager, so this was like early '90s,
Hmm.
and I had this camera that was probably is an 8 millimeter. It was probably like from the mid '70s,
Wow.
you know. So we were walking around just filming because we thought we were like cool auteur filmmakers, Just a couple like 13, 14-year-old dorks. Um, we were walking around just filming the city, and these cops pull up and they start, questioning us and kind of being jerks. But whatever, it was what it is. And they start like hounding us about like, where'd you get the camera? Like implying that we stole it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, this camera is like older than me. Like, who's selling this camera that I could steal it from them right now? But and then yeah, we got brought home. My parents, they weren't mad, they were disappointed.
Hmm.
Very disappointed. Um, they called his parents, he came over. They came over, picked him up. The funny thing about that friend at the time was he had a stepfather, a German guy named Frank, and he hated his stepfather. He's like, he's such a, hard AWS. He's, like, and I mean, the guy was strict and whatever, but over the course of the years that we were friends, I can't say for sure because I mean, the dude never came out and said it, but I started to get the feeling that he actually liked me more than than my friend because like the dude would start calling me and being like, "Hey, you want to do Keith and me are going to do this? You want to go?" I'm like, okay, why isn't Keith calling me and asking me this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe I'm totally out of my mind, but that was the impression I started to get after a while.
so let me make sure. So the way I just heard that, which might be wrong, his stepfather was like calling you to hang out with him.
Yeah, I mean, not like just the two of us. It wasn't like weird. Well, I mean, it was weird, but not that kind of weird. He would only be like, "Hey, we're probably gonna go out and go fishing. Do you want to go with
Hmm.
us?" It wasn't just
Wow.
like, "Hey, everybody's gone. You want to come hang out and watch a movie?" No.
Come here, go watch a movie. Oh, Chris Hansen! Finally, we brought it back. Chris
Yeah,
Hansen, come.
yeah,
Why don't you have a seat? Um,
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So, do you think your friend resented you for that fact?
No, it wasn't too long after the whole camera incident where I started like kind of reassessing the friendship because most of the times when I got in trouble, it was with him. And so I was like, I don't like being in trouble. Being in trouble sucks because I can't do what I want to do. So I think I kind of naturally just started separating myself a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, and then eventually we just stopped hanging out, which I will say, like, on the 0.01% chance the dude ever sees this video. I didn't use his real name, by the way, just in case he does.
Yeah.
But on the 0.01% chance he ever does see this video, he did. I heard later, like, he joined the military and he actually became, like, a pretty stand-up dude. When
Hmm,
we were kids, he was kind of a troublemaker, but he became a pretty stand-up adult from what I heard.
I see.
So,
I see. So
good
it's
for
it's
him.
funny how that happens. Some of the troublemaker kids, they end up somehow joining the military, and that is the thing that ends up straightening them out, and then they
Yeah.
progress through life. But you're telling me that you didn't necessarily have a troubled childhood. When you're growing up, you were pretty even keeled, straight man. So what led you to want to join the military? How'd you end up there?
Probably just what you said, like, I was always kinda even keeled, always kinda patriotic, always had, like, a sense of, like, duty and honor. Dude, I hate this because I hate saying this stuff about myself because I feel whether it comes across that way or not, I feel so conceited and like, I'm so honorable. But I did, I just like the family I grew up in, I guess probably the time I grew up in too, was just a very, not like World War II era, but I feel like there was more patriotism back in the day than there is today.
Hmm.
So it was just ingrained in me. The anyone remembers like the '90s Army and Marines commercials? They were pretty
Hmm.
hardcore. So, um, and I went to join when I was a teenager. I went through the whole process, and then for some reason I just didn't. Like I was going to join active duty back then. I ended up when I did join, I joined reserve as an adult. But when I was like a teenager, I was going to join active duty. My MOS was going to be aircraft powertrain repair, so I was going to work on aircrafts,
Hmm.
and all that, which would have been great had I done that because I found out after the fact, like a lot of people who do that, they learn how to work on engines for helicopters and all that.
Hmm.
Particularly in South Florida, they'll come out and they'll start their own like helicopter repair business, and they're like, right,
Hmm.
so live and learn, I guess. But
Huh. So, but that is a very hard decision to make, and you make it seem very nonchalant. Like, well, I guess you had duty and honor, even if you feel weird. It says it like, but I was in a similar position where I was like, oh, this seems like the right thing to do. Seems like something I should do. And as soon as that was presented to my parents, I said, absolutely not. You're not joining. So
yeah,
how was that process? Was there somebody at school that recruited you? Was it just a thought you had, like, "Oh, I see the commercial, the few, the proud, the Marines. I'm just gonna enlist." And then, how what
yeah,
does that look like? How'd you even get started?
yeah. No, it was just all me. My parents, they were supportive of it both times. They probably weren't happy about it, but they were probably like proud, but oh crap, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, also, you like you say, I make it sound like an easy decision. Well, it's the right thing to do, blah 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 blah. But leaving out you're leaving out how dumb I am to actually look at it and go like, wait, I could die if I do this. I could die horribly. Like it doesn't even cross my mind. I'm just like, army, yeah, cool, let's go. Hooah.
Wow. So you didn't even have that thought. It's just, and you said early
I
90s this
mean,
is?
yeah, I mean, I guess it was there. Like I knew it was a possibility, but I was like, whatever, dude. I'm 19 or not 19. How old was I? I think the first time I went to oh, that's exactly what it was. The first time I went to sign up, I was actually 17. So I would have
Mm,
had to wait. Like I could start the process, but like I couldn't go until and then I guess over time I just got involved. Like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to join the army anymore. I want to go make movies. I want to go to film school, which I never did anyway. But yeah, like I
yeah,
mean,
I'm curious on the timeline. So if you initially enlisted at 17, so you ended up, why did you end up not doing that and then ended up going to college?
so um, probably the boring, honest answer is probably I used to be pretty wishy-washy. Um, I know that's not like a very deep whatever, but I flip-flop on a lot of stuff as far as what I mean, and I still do that to this day. It drives my wife crazy. Like, uh, as far as talking about my hobbies and stuff. Like I'll get interested in something and I'll go really hardcore into it for a while, and she'll finally like get on board with it. Like the credit card thing, which thankfully the credit card thing is stuck around for a few years. So once it makes it past a certain time, it's going to stick. But
Huh,
normally, like if it doesn't make it 6 months, it's not going to stick around, right? So
gotcha.
yeah, I just like shiny. You know what I mean? It's like, ooh, that's shiny. I'm interested in. Wait a minute, that's even shinier. I like that. You know?
So yeah, I understand that wholeheartedly because that's very similar to how I am as well. Not a lot of my decisions are like fully deep rooted in like a passion, and it's like well thought out. It's for the most part throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah,
And then if it does, then you end up having that accolade. And now to this day, you have a bunch of different things. So I hear you. I hear you. It's not you're like, oh, it's not the deepest answer, but it's how some of us live. Me and you both. It's like that looks pretty cool. Just gonna do that for a little bit. That looks
yeah,
pretty cool. I'm gonna do that for a little bit. And it doesn't have to
yeah.
have a grand meaning to it. So um, I, I'm with you. I empathize. Um, so, and you did graduate college, right? You did see that all the way out?
I did as an adult. I went to college twice.
Hmm, really?
Um, yeah, I went back instead of joining the army, and I went for graphic design.
Hmm,
Um, I didn't finish that, and then as an adult, um, I went and I got my bachelor's in computer science with a focus on web development, and then my
hmm.
master's in journalism, which I got my master's like 3, 4 years ago now. So
Gotcha, gotcha. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, so you kind of went back after everything. So when did you
yeah, yeah.
fully enlist into the military then? What age?
I was 21, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Huh.
and yeah, I was already dating Kim.
Hmm.
And um, this is gonna make me sound like a terrible human being. So I was already dating Kim, um, and she was at Florida State, and I had moved up there to be with her. And I still always had the military in the back of my mind. Like it wasn't something that I just completely forgot. I stepped away from it, but it was always there.
Hmm.
Um, and so she was in college and she got pregnant. Um, I was thinking, I was like, well, if I go Army Reserve, it's only going to be 1 week in a month. I'll have to do my 2 weeks in the summer or whenever they do it. But it'll only be one, but it'll be like a second source of income. It'll be great to help, because I'm having a kid. I need a second source of income now. Um, Not the very best thought out plan because it was shortly after we went to war in Iraq. So I go through basic training, I go through AIT, I get home, our daughter is born. So yes, I left her for basic training in AIT while she was
Hmm.
pregnant in college. So, poo poo on me for that one. But in my mind, I'm like, it's going to suck up front, but it's going to be worth it because it's going to give us some more stability, right? So I
Hmm.
get home, I go to my first drill, which is right before Christmas. And at that drill, the unit that I joined gets orders to get deployed. I was like, oh God.
Jeez.
So I got to spend Christmas with my daughter, her first Christmas, as a tiny little newborn baby, and then I was gone for the first year.
Man.
So yeah,
And I think I remember hearing that on one of your other podcasts that every time you deployed, you had another
yeah.
kid.
So my son was born 4 years later, and 4 years later is when I got my second tour, which I got a little bit more time with him on the front end.
Mm,
Like with my daughter, it was like she was born and I was like gone in like a month and a half. With my son, I got a few months with him. But I still basically missed the whole first year,
mm,
and they were election years. So
of course. Um,
yeah,
so I want to ask and kind of get kind of granular here because I'm really curious to and obviously share what you want to share. But all the time I've known you, I've been wanting to ask you these questions, so I'm glad to have you now. So when we do something for the first time, as humans, you go to the gym for the first time, you go to this new school for the first time. You usually remember the first day. You usually remember like, oh, this is a little weird. Okay, this is like maybe this jacked bodybuilder's over here, and I'm like this skinny other, or I'm going to this school. It's like, wow, these people look really official, like they're about to get hired or something to a new job, like crazy stuff. What was the first day like for you when you, I would say, fully were in the military and maybe got deployed that first time?
Oh, that went a different way. I thought you were gonna ask, like, first day, like, basic. Okay, so first day when I was fully in the
Either
military,
one.
so, like, my first day being activated and deployed, or, like, my first day at, like, that drill where I found out we were being deployed?
If you want to do both, do basic and deployed. Yeah.
Okay, so, my first day of basic was surprisingly easy until it wasn't.
Hmm.
So, like, we get there, and before you actually start your 9 weeks basic, you go through, like, a couple of days of, like, in processing.
Hmm.
Um, and, like, the food was amazing. Like, they were strict, but not strict.
Hmm.
I got voluntold to go with this other sergeant to go pick up supplies, and, like, while we were riding together, he was like, "You want a soda?" He bought me a soda. I'm like,
Hmm.
"This is awesome."
Yeah.
Like, this is kinda cool. Then I got attached to my actual training unit, and yeah, that's when the switch flipped.
Hmm.
Um, People screaming. We had a kid pee himself like immediately. Like as soon as the way they do it is like the drill. I don't know if they still do it this way, but when I went to Fort Jackson, otherwise known as Relaxin' Jackson, um, and the drill sergeants like they get introduced to you. They stand in front of you. They do like their drill sergeant's creed oath. Talk about how like they're there to take care of you. Blah 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 blah. And then the company commander for that company releases them, and that's when like they immediately go into screaming. They get up in your face. We're all like on bleachers, and they're like chasing us off the bleachers to get into formation. Like we're right in your face. Like you can taste their spit because they're literally like screaming and spitting on purpose.
Jeez.
Um, you know, and yeah, like right off the bat, this poor kid he peed himself, and then through basic, he peed himself like 4 more times. He peed on somebody else's mail one time at mail call, and then eventually he like washed. He didn't make it. Um,
Really.
but so that was interesting. My first day at drill, as you can imagine, sucked because I just found out like, hey, welcome to the unit. By the way, pack up your bags. You're going to war. Cool.
Wow.
Um, Yeah. And then my first day in country. So anybody, I don't know if Woodsy's here or not. Anybody who's been deployed um, to Iraq knows the moment you land and they open that door, there's a very specific smell that eventually you get accustomed to, but you will never forget in your entire life. Like that
Hmm.
area just has a very peculiar, and by peculiar I mean gross smell to it. Um, and I don't know what it is. Like I could say, "Oh, it's sewage, it's dirty," but like it's just a combination of like nasty smells. And the moment they open the door on the plane, it just like smacks you in the face. So that's something that I'll always remember is that smell. Eventually, you do get used to it. Um, and then my second tour, like they opened the door on the plane, and it was instantly like, "Oh God, I forgot about that." You know, but it like instant recognition. Um, the first time I landed over there was crazy because my second tour was 2008, so I don't want to say things have like calmed down, but they had calmed down. My first tour was 2004. When we landed, it's crazy because the way they would land, because you can't just like coast in a war zone. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So they would do. They had a name for it. I don't remember. I always just called it the death spiral. The plane would basically like come in at a very sharp angle and like spiral down into the landing,
Hmm.
which kind of scary, especially for someone who doesn't like flying or anything like that. So, um, Yeah, those are probably the 2 things I'll always remember is that and the smell.
Hmm.
Which I know that that probably doesn't mean anything for people watching who haven't been there because, like, how do you describe smell to someone? You can't, you know what I mean? But so sorry.
Gotcha. Just have to be there to
Yeah.
experience that. So, and did you? I just want to know, like, because you said you want to know the way people think and everything. So I want to get how you think on certain things. So when they first told you, like, hey, okay, we're deploying. You're going through basic, and they say, okay, we're deploying. What's like? Do you remember the first thought you had in your mind? Is it like fear? Is it excitement?
It was, well, we're keeping this G-rated, so I can't tell you exactly what it was, but it
Yeah.
was yeah, it was honestly, it was probably more fear, not for the actual going over to a war zone, but fear because Kim didn't want me to sign up. And
Oh.
I, in my infinite knowledge, knew that it was the best possible thing I could do for our brand new family, right? I was like, I understand, but you have to trust me. This is the best thing I can do. And then when that happened, it was just like my heart like sank, you know? Because the whole reason I went reserve was to avoid getting deployed. Well, I didn't know at the time, like reserves basically got deployed equal, if not more, than active duty units. I'm sure the
Hmm.
people who are active duty will probably disagree with me on that, but that's a stat that I had heard at one time, whether or not it's true or not. It felt like it was true. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, that was just like, God, now I have to go tell Kim that we just had a baby and now I have to leave. So that sucked. That's something I prefer not to think about. So thanks for asking me, Anthony. Jerk.
All right, no problem.
I'm just kidding.
Just walks off. That's a long time ago, Ritchie. All right, it's a long. I'm kidding. No, but I can imagine what that's like on the
Yeah.
smallest scale. Like if my wife tells me like don't do that, and then you do it, and like the worst case scenario happens,
Yeah.
yeah, you feel the pin in your
Yeah.
stomach. Like she's God, yeah, I
Yeah.
can. As you're telling me this, I can imagine uh,
Yeah.
that feeling to a small degree.
Which
What
I'm
about?
sure every
Mhm,
husband or boyfriend kind of knows what that feels like to some extent.
yeah. Scissor actually mentioned the Sarajevo approach or the corkscrew landing for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
yeah. Joe Brito says, "Thank you for your service and sacrifice." Mm,
Thanks, Joe.
and then, so what about the actual plane ride over there? Um, what is that like?
Really long and uncomfortable. Um, I want to say where did we land? We flew out of Georgia and we landed. I think we landed in Turkey, and then
Hmm,
to Kuwait, and then drove into country. But no, that was the second time. Sorry, I don't remember where we landed the first time, but it's a really long flight. I think it's like 22, 23 hours, something like that. And
wow.
they're not exactly the most comfortable seats. Um, and I mean, you're in like any enclosed area with anyone for more than a few hours, and people start getting annoyed. People start like fighting for room, and so
Hmm,
it sucked. I just tried to sleep as much as I could. One because I don't know. I was like, well, I guess when I land, I'm gonna be in a war zone, so let me get some rest while I can. And then,
yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know, just really uncomfortable, and you're just kind of processing everything. You know what I mean?
Hmm,
Because that is the case. You take off here, where you're still in the relative, comfort and security of your own country,
yeah.
but when you land, you're not anymore. So it's just kind of a processing. I don't know. Probably just a lot of reading a book, but not really paying attention to what I was reading. You know what I
Hmm,
mean? Does that make sense?
hmm.
Pretending to read a book and sleep.
Oh, I can imagine. Okay, I guess I can
Yeah.
imagine. With other people scared, or were people just loud and
Oh
being
yeah,
crazy
I'm
in there?
sure.
Or, hmm,
Well, I mean, it's probably both, right? Like, it's probably. I'm sure everybody was scared, and people have their own ways of like dealing with it and coping with it, and
hmm,
probably trying to hide it. For some people, like me, most of the people I hung out with, the people that I got close with, because as a reservist, I never deployed with my like full unit. We always got
Mm,
what's called cross leveled, right? So like my first tour when my unit got deployed, it was only like half of our unit that actually got deployed, and we got cross leveled and attached to a different unit
mm,
to fill whatever holes they had in their unit. Um, so every time I deployed, like I was with different people, but the people that I always tended to like form relationships with were kind of the same as me. Like we had the same interest, movies,
mm,
stuff like that. So the people I bonded with, we all kind of like, if something did freak us out, we had the same mindset. Like we would just talk it out with each other, you know.
mm,
But there are definitely people who like, like stereotypical macho dudes who are afraid to admit when they're scared, so they do whatever to compensate for it, and then other people who just get like really quiet, and
mm.
just not talk, just kind of like fold into themselves.
Yeah,
Everybody handles it differently.
got it, got it. And I think I heard on Spencer's, you once you got there, you immediately had some sort of a mission, like you were driving something somewhere. Is that right?
Oh yeah, so it wasn't immediate. It was
Mm,
I I ended up being so my first tour we were at Camp Buka, which was on the southern end of Iraq, and it was an EPW camp. It was where enemy prisoners of war were kept.
mm,
Um, and for anyone old enough to remember, makes me feel old, so old having to put that disclaimer on it. But for anyone old enough to remember, the Iraq War, when the whole Abu Ghraib scandal
mm,
broke out, there were these pictures that got released of Iraqi prisoners basically being mistreated and humiliated, and it became like this big scandal.
mm,
Well, so one of the ways they tried to save face with that was they started, releasing prisoners, and they would get cameras to record prisoners being released from this Abu Ghraib prison.
mm,
But a lot of times the prisoners weren't necessarily getting released from Abu Ghraib. They'd be transported from other EPW camps to Abu Ghraib and then
mm,
released from there for whatever reason. Um, so I got the short straw, and we would convoy some of those prisoners from Buka to Abu Ghraib, and we'd be in this big convoy. And back in 2004, when this was happening, we didn't have up armored vehicles. We were like driving around with Humvees and stuff that had like cloth doors on them, if they had doors on them at all. We were actually taking like sheet metal and like, you know, bolting it on ourselves to add some protection. Um, well, in the middle of this, like, big convoy, we had to transport the prisoners somehow. So we had like these buses, like, the Middle Eastern version of like a Greyhound bus. And so you've got, the front of the convoy, which is military vehicles and has, gunners, and the back of the convoy. And then right in the middle, this giant silver bus that might as well have just had like a big target painted on the side that said like
jeez.
shoot here, because one of the tactics for convoys was to separate the convoy. So the middle
Mm,
of the convoy was usually the target so that you could, well, not you, so they could separate and cause like, confusion, and that's how they would attack convoys.
mm,
So I'm like in this big soft target right in the middle of the convoy, and the whole time I'm driving, I'm just like, dear Lord, please let them know that their own people are in here. Like,
yeah.
don't shoot at this bus. You know what I mean? Which thankfully never really dealt with anything serious. But it was one thing that was crazy is we would convoy up and we would take this route called MSR Tampa. Usually was the main route we would take. It was just the name that we gave the roads and
Mm,
the routes we took. It was Tampa, and like we convoy up, and for the most part, it was fine, nothing crazy. And then like 2 days later, we'd be taking that same route back, and there would be like obvious signs like something happened in those 2 days right here. You know what I mean?
jeez.
So, I always felt blessed. Like I never got caught in anything crazy, you know. like a couple little things here and there. Where you're just like, okay, everybody speed up. And that was it, you know.
Hmm.
Another thing, which is crazy, which I don't know. I think there's a couple of people who like Caesar, right? Caesar was deployed, right?
Yes.
Okay, he might remember this. Like, you'd be driving, and you'd be in the middle of like the desert for hours. Like the last time you saw like a small town or anything was like 2 hours ago, and you know you've got like another 2 hours before you see another town. But then on the side of the road, there'd be like 5 kids just like hanging out. I'm like, where did you come from? Like
Hmm.
it's hours between anything in any direction. What are you doing? And it was like
Yeah.
normal. It's
Huh.
crazy.
Just like little outposts in between the smaller towns.
No, dude, I'm
Just the
literally
middle
like
of
four or
nowhere.
five kids just walking the side of the road with nothing
Jeez.
around. You
Huh.
know, I say little kids, they're probably like teenagers, but I'm like, where did you come from?
Jeez. That's. I mean, I've seen some videos online where people will just literally walk the desert. I forget which desert, but they'll walk the desert to get to the next town and whatnot. And you forget like you forget living here. It's like, oh, there's the target. You know,
Yeah,
let me go
right?
to the target down the road. That's pretty wild. Wow.
Yeah, dude, it blew
So,
my mind.
man, so you said you didn't really see anything. Well, luckily you didn't see anything too crazy. Or you were in the midst of a couple things, and you're like, oh, speed up. What would you say? Would you say that driving in the middle of the convoy was the scariest moment you had out there?
No, the scariest stuff I ever had to deal with, hands down, was rockets and mortars because there's nothing you can do about those, right? Like, especially in 2004. In 2008, we had like anti-rocket like things that would take care of it for the most part. But in
Hmm.
2004, like if a rocket or a mortar was launched into your camp, at least where I was, like it was just like, you know, hope you're not where it lands.
Jeez.
Which we did have one actually land in a tent that nobody was in and not explode. So EOD came in and did their thing and blew it up, which EOD is explosive ordnance disposal. It's just, you know, like a
Hmm.
job in the military. The guys who go and just blow stuff up. Um, which they're really cool, but they're also like really crazy, which I mean you can kind of expect because of their job.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that was always the craziest thing was, you know, you never know. I always told my buddies, I was like, listen, like, because we had porta johns. I was like, listen, dude, if I like blow up in a porta john, like lie to my family. You don't you don't have to tell them I was doing anything heroic. You don't have to, you know, you could tell them I was in my bed, but just don't tell them I was in the toilet.
Jesus Christ. Ritchie, what the hell? These thoughts that you have.
Well, I mean,
God.
right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you die? Well,
In the portage. He said the John. Oh God. Um, what about conversely, did you have a best moment out there? Some relief or something was funny? Any moment like that?
ooh, best moment hands down was when my time was up and we were coming home. I mean, that's probably a boring answer, but that was absolutely 100% the best moment both times. But yeah, there was probably some funny stuff. Man, I can't think. Oh, one time, um, I got locked in a Foot Locker for about 4 minutes because my friends
What?
are jerks.
Oh
Well,
my
my
God.
friends back then were jerks.
Oh
Yeah,
my
they're
God.
like, dude, I bet you can't Foot Locker. I'm like, shut up. And they're like, oh, I bet you can't. I'll give you $50.
What?
All right, fine. And so I did it, and then they locked it for like 4 minutes.
Oh, that's actually a long time to be stuck in a
Yeah, I
foot
did.
locker.
I was like, come
Jeez.
on. Well, all right, hold on. Yeah, it probably wasn't 4 minutes. It probably just felt like 4 minutes. It was probably more like 1 minute.
Okay.
But you know,
Feels like it.
for anyone who thinks that 1 minute's not a long time, just sit in silence and watch a clock count 1 minute, and then tell me that it's not a long time. Like, especially
Especially, yeah.
locked in a footlocker. And then you know about my little R2, right? I told you the story about him before. Right.
Mhm.
So for anyone who doesn't know, this little guy, he's been with me for all of my big life events. He was in my pocket for my wedding. He went to Iraq with me both times. Anytime I go and I know it's going to be like a big life thing, he's there. He was in my pocket when my daughter was born. Pretty sure he was there when my son was born. Um, but they took him one time again in my first tour, and I couldn't find him one day. And I'm like, I'm not like freaking out, but I was a little freaking out because, it's our two, it's my buddies. um, so the same group of friends who locked me in the Foot Locker had taken him and tied him to a weight and put him in a cooler full of water and basically like drowned R2. You guys are jerks, man. What the heck?
Jeez.
Same team. What are you doing?
Yeah, right.
but
Oh
but
god,
they actually broke him. He used to make noise. He doesn't make noise anymore because he got all the water in him. But
those POSs, Jesus Christ,
right,
unreal. What's wrong with people? Oh my
right. No
god.
other countries hate us. This is the kind of
Yeah,
stuff we do.
they do stuff like that. Oh man. Okay, interesting. So if I want to maybe switch gears a little bit, on a slightly lighter note, how did you meet your wife?
So the the time I met her that started our relationship, I was actually her boss and I hired her. But technically the first time I ever met her was she was dating one of my friends. I didn't know her. I'd never seen her before. I had no idea who she was. And me and that friend and his brother and one of our other friends were going somewhere. And he's like, "Hey, I got to make a stop real quick." I'm like, "Okay." So apparently, what had happened is she had just dumped him, and he he didn't tell us, but he was going to bring her like a little gift that I guess he had bought her before she dumped him. So he was just going to give it to her.
Mm,
So we pull up to this totally random house. I have no idea what it is. He gets out. I don't know what's going on. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're getting out. Um, she comes out and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And at this point, I realize I'm like, "Oh, this isn't probably gonna be good." So I just kind of hang back for a minute, and they have like a little exchange. I didn't hear what was going on, but they have a little exchange, and kind of a little bit rude to him, I guess. Maybe I'll probably get in trouble for that later, but so he walks away, and I could tell he's like totally like broken about whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm just kind of standing there in the driveway, and I'm like, he walks to the car, and she's just standing there at the door, and I'm like, well, it was nice almost meeting you. Have a good day. And like, I get in the car and we drive away, and I'm like, dude, what the heck was that all about? And then he told me, well, it was like months later. I was a manager at a store called Natural Wonders, and she came in and applied, and I hired her, and then we became friends, and it grew out of that.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
but yeah,
that
so the first
is
time I met
yeah,
her was, yeah, that was interesting.
that's crazy. So and when
Yeah,
she came in to apply for your to the job that you were I guess manager at when she went to apply, did you was it love at first sight for you guys, or was there you had to meet her
depends on who
first?
you ask. Yeah, it
Oh,
depends on who you
uh-oh,
ask.
really?
Um, she probably not first sight, but she was definitely into me before I was into her. And the only reason why was because I had made a conscious decision at the time, like I wasn't going to worry about girls, I wasn't going to worry about dating. I was
Mm,
just going to do my own thing. So had I not already been in that mindset, maybe I thought she was cute, which she still to this day doesn't let me live that down that I thought she was cute.
yeah.
Um, but that was all it was for me because I wasn't looking for anything else.
Mm,
But I still think it's better that it worked out that way because, like I said when I was talking with Spencer, however people come together, whatever works for them works for them. But in my experience, usually the strongest relationships are the ones that come from people bonding and being friends and being really close before they, you know, get romantically involved.
hmm.
Guaranteed that's not always the case, but just that's how it seems most of the time. You know what I mean?
It kinda just makes sense, it's
Yeah.
it's funny, all the advice that we get on relationships or how to meet people, it's really kinda counterintuitive. It's like, well, how do you make a best friend in life normally? Well, you usually hang out with them a long time and you get to know enough about them to be like, "Okay, they're a good person, I wanna spend more time with them, they enhance my life," and that for any gender, right? Um, and but it's so different that we all go to the bar and go talk to the girl at the stool. Okay, and that's gonna be your wife later on. I get there's one night stands and whatnot, but it same way for you was very same for me when I met my wife, and I mean, before we actually started dating, we already have accumulated probably more time talking to each other than most people even get before they get married, as crazy as that sounds. Like 8 hours each time we were hanging out, even more sometimes for months on end. And then, and then they become your best friend, and then you can, establish that relationship and you go further. I think that
Sure.
the main issue is knowing, and I want to ask you too, when we're because I think one of the hardest parts of becoming the friend first is obviously you get friend zoned. So like, was there a time where you were deciding in your mind like, oh, I kind of want more, but I don't know how, or did you just kind of just kept existing on the relationship and maybe she initiated first, something like that?
I I guess I kinda had a cheat code because I knew how she felt before, you know what I mean?
Mm,
So for me, it was always kinda walking the line of, like, I really do like her, I enjoy hanging out with her, like, she is my best friend, but I also know, like, I have to walk a tightrope because I don't ever wanna, you know what I mean? And
hmm.
then I think one day I don't know, one day I probably just woke up and I was like, "I should stop being stupid, we like each other, we get along great, what am I doing?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember our first kiss, which
Hmm.
was amazing. She's a very good kisser.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, yeah, so I'm trying to remember, like, the build up to it, like, I remember how it happened and everything, I'm trying to remember, like I know I had planned it, um, trying to remember how, like, far in advance did I plan it? Anyway, I don't know, yeah, so I finally I was like, "What am I doing? Stop being a dummy, just make it happen." So,
And what was that conversation like? Was it a phone call? Was it in person?
it was the kiss. That was the
Oh,
moment.
really?
'Cause like I said, yeah, I knew that she liked me, and I liked her, and I just had to stop being a dummy, and I was like, "Alright, well, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it," and, we'd gone out as friends, and I brought her back home, and I was walking her in, and before we went inside, I stopped her and kissed her, and
Ah,
that was the beginning of the best years of my life.
wow, that's amazing. I love to hear that because well, it is very movie-esque. But
Yeah.
it d and how old were you at that time?
Oh god. 19?
Oh, oh god. 19, okay.
Yeah.
So to be
Yeah, ish.
19 years old and to make that decision, for me, would have been very hard.
Yeah.
I think we were similar in that way. We're like, and maybe even a little bit afraid of girls, something like that. Who knows? But to get to that point, to build up like I have to do this, like, or else nothing else will happen. That takes a lot to do that as a 19-year
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
Um, so it's pretty
And
crazy. You
what's
woke up and
crazy
decided.
yeah, I was sorry. I was gonna say what's crazy is I don't know why she liked me because we were complete opposite ends of, like, the high school spectrum, like,
Hmm.
I was ahead of her in school, so we didn't go to school together, but she was in, like, the cheerleader, cool kid crowd, you
Oh.
know, and I was very much not, right? Like, I was, like in early high school, I was a kid who, like, got picked on and stuff, and, like, I liked anime, and I didn't really have, like, a lot of friends. Somehow, like, by my senior year, some it, like, flipped. I never was, like never hung out with, like, the really cool kids that went and, like, got drunk in the woods and all that, like but with the group of friends I did have, I kinda became the ring see, this is another one of those things where I feel uncomfortable saying it, but I kinda became, like, the ringleader of that group of friends and somehow, like, fell into the good graces of like every group. You know what I mean? So like
Hmm.
the jocks, like I didn't hang out with them, but I wasn't like teased or picked on anymore. Like we just were copacetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I was still like the same person. Like I used to wear jeans on the beach. Like I would just go walk the beach and wear jeans, and she was like, "I will never date anyone who wears jeans on the beach. That's stupid. Why do you wear jeans on the beach?
Oh my god.
I'll never date anyone who watches anime. What's anime? That's dumb. That's cartoons." And like, here we are.
Oh my god, that is so funny. Off camera, we
Yeah. So
talk
I don't
about how
know.
similar. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know why she liked me to begin with because I was completely not the type of person that she liked.
Very, very similar. She said she would never date anyone her age and never would date an Anthony. It's like a couple other things. And I was like, all right, well, we broke those rules.
Yeah.
That you so, but I what I found over time is a lot of girls don't even know what they want anyway until you kind of present yourself to them, and then they end up liking what
Yeah.
you are. Um, so can't always take that for gospel. Um, so now I wanted to get into some questions that you ask a lot of people, which is
Ugh.
um, yeah, now you're ready for it. Uh, your wife, right? Um,
Right.
what would you say she would say is her favorite thing about you?
My naked body. I didn't want to laugh. I wanted to hold it, but I felt like I had to give you that release.
And listen, folks, I've seen
um,
it. He's right. No, I'm kidding. Uh,
no, what is my wife's favorite thing about me for real? Definitely not that. Probably sense of humor, maybe.
huh?
Yeah, sense of humor.
Oh, sense of humor. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say, which is weird because she says she loves it, but most of the time, from my end, it just looks like it annoys her. So I don't know.
Well, okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, okay, yeah. You feel a little. You have a very good. You're very funny. Like I said in the beginning, you're one of the funniest people in this whole space. So that's fine.
So,
What would you say? What would you say is your wife's? What do you think your wife dislikes most about you?
my naked body and my sense of humor.
God damn.
Like,
My weaknesses are my strengths, actually. Uh,
yeah. Um,
mhm,
no, honestly, I could probably legitimately say sense of humor for both of those because, like I just said, I
yeah.
think it annoys her a lot. But um, probably, yeah, probably my wishy washiness that I
Mm,
mentioned earlier. My um, probably to some degree, some level of ADHD, where like I'll start a project and then get distracted by something else shiny, and that project will just sit there half finished forever until she finally comes and just like sweeps it away.
gotcha.
So
Mhm.
probably, yeah, probably that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I, yeah. I could see that in my own life as well, a little bit. Um, what do you like most about yourself?
My naked body and my sense of humor.
Oh my
Okay, I
god.
gotta stop. I'm getting old.
Three is too many.
um,
Oh, wait a second.
right. Oh, she just answered. She said rearranging furniture.
What?
Yep.
That's the most hated thing. Do you rearrange furniture?
That's what she hates about me most. I do. I rearrange all the time.
What do you do? Why? What do you have to
Um,
do that for?
because I always think of a way that something's gonna look better, and it does look better. And if she can't appreciate it, that's her problem. She needs to get over
Kim, that's probably really annoying. It's probably really annoying. It's like,
it.
oh, hey, which day is Richie gonna wake up and start moving the whole house apart? Just, oh, TV look good over there. I'm with you. Okay, sorry, Richie. I'm with her on this one.
Uh,
I'm like, just leave it where it is. It's fine. We don't have to start moving things. Then you get scratches on the floor. It's a whole big thing. Okay, sorry. What would you say is your most liked thing about yourself? Is it? Uh,
it's not my naked body and my sense of humor.
four, four in a
Definitely not
row.
my
Okay.
most liked thing about myself. Um,
Okay.
I don't know. That's a hard one, man. Because God, what is? I like. Okay, I'm gonna get deep. You ready? I like how much. I love my loved ones,
Hmm.
right? Like, I mean, it's probably not a big deal. Anyone who has kids, or a husband or wife that they actually get along with probably feels this way. But there is nothing I wouldn't do for my wife and kids. Absolutely nothing that I wouldn't do for my wife and kids. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know how to go from there, but
I love it. I love it. Now,
the love
conversely,
runs deep, man.
I love it, man. Conversely, and it shows. It seems like you guys, love each other for sure. Um, conversely, what do you dislike most about yourself?
I gotta say, aside from the moving furniture thing, probably a lot of the same stuff that Kim probably gets annoyed at. I honestly get annoyed at myself. Like, I hate that I will start a project and then, go start another project and then go start another project and never finish the first one I started. A perfect example of that is when we were getting ready. I showed you what you can't see on camera in this room right now.
Yeah.
That's because I've started like 3 or 4 different projects in this room that and haven't finished any of them. So,
Jeez.
yeah, it's pretty bad sometimes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say the ADHD kinda stuff. I mean, I'm not diagnosing myself with ADHD, but I do have, like, those tendencies, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll make me forget stuff, like,
Hmm.
I know I have to do something. Kim will tell me, like, "Hey, we have to do this." Um, and I'll be like, "Okay, cool." And then I'd be like, "Oh, hey, look, Star Wars is on TV." And then my kid's sitting at school for 3 hours after school's out.
Has
Yeah.
that actually happened?
No, that hasn't happened,
Okay.
but
Okay. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I've often heard and have seen over time that usually the physical realm, like where your physical space is, like your room, is a real physical manifestation of how your mind is organized. So, if you're very scatterbrained, or if you start a million different things, your physical world will look like that as well. So you can see how someone's mind works, just kind of how they organize the environment around them, and that's why you're moving furniture every friggin' day.
yeah.
It's
Well, dude, I have a harder time finding stuff if it's put away than I do if it's where I left it. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Does it make sense? Like, my office is a mess, but I know exactly where everything is.
yes,
So,
yes.
like, if I were to come in here and clean it and then come in here again tomorrow and look for something that I cleaned, I have no idea where it is.
I agree with you. I do just want to say that if you ever watch the show Hoarders, that's exactly what they say as well. Um,
I have not watched the show Hoarders, but I know about it.
but no,
Organized
I
chaos,
understand.
yes, Lonnie,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yep. I have a feeling Lonnie's like. I have a feeling everything has a perfect, proper space for everything for him, especially his background and everything. I feel like
Dude, I'm
mine's a little scattered,
intimidated
but
to talk to Lonnie. Like, after your interview with him, I was always like,
mhm,
I'm gonna call Lonnie up one day," and I still will to do an episode of Beyond Credit, but
yeah.
dude's, like, in Mensa, and I'm just like, "What am I gonna talk to him about?" Like, I'm gonna ask him questions. Lonnie, you're just gonna look at me like, "Why am I wasting my time with you, peon?"
P literally, you could cut my IQ in half, and then you have Ritchie. Can you imagine?
Like
Stupid. No, Lonnie's a great guy. I'm sure you guys would have a great
yeah,
conversation, and talking about Star Wars, of course. You guys will bond over
yeah.
that. That's funny. Speaking of you, jumping from topic to topic, and dancing around to a lot of different things and never completing them. Let me ask you: would you rather? Because this is a question I've always played with in my life. Would you rather be a jack of all trades or a master of one?
I would rather be a master of all trades, kind of like I am presently.
Okay, okay, sorry. Okay, CEO's here. All right. So-
CEOs here.
yeah.
um, um, yeah, so that's a tough one, honestly, right? Because I mean, how deep do you want to go into that? Like, you want to be really good at what you do, but the same token is like you don't want to miss out on other stuff because you're right. It's the James Bond complex. And for anyone who
Hmm.
knows, like James Bond is amazing at everything, which is just not possible. Nobody can be, an expert at everything that James Bond is an expert at.
Hmm.
Um, so it's, I don't know, man. You ask me today, my answer will probably be different than it is tomorrow, um, because yeah, I wake up in a different mood and I feel differently about it. Today, my answer would probably be, I'd rather be a jack of all trades because I don't want to miss out on anything.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
but like even this conversation, let's say hypothetically later in this conversation we start talking about filmmaking, and you ask me, and we've been in the conversation about filmmaking for a while. I'd be like, yeah, no, I want to be a master at this because like I love this and I want to do it good. You know what I mean? So sorry.
I see.
I mean, I have
Depends
like the
on.
worst answers today. I'm
What?
sorry.
No, not at all. Remember, you're your own worst critic, so I'm very entertained. So
Yeah.
it's, hopefully someone else is too. No, yeah, it's a question I've always toyed with because, like you, I've bounced to a lot of different things, and then you have seasons of life where you kind of become decent at whatever the thing that you're obsessed with at that time. So for me, they usually are 3 year stints before I move on to the next thing. So in my mind, I've liked how I've done things so far. Usually, I think if you're gonna be a master of one, well, one it is kind of flawed too, because if you are a master of one, usually you can get pretty good at other things as well, because you have the mental aspect of it. But if on that question alone, if I'm gonna answer it, I'd probably say jack of all trades for similar answers for you, because I don't know, I never think I'm going to be the best at something. I could be a pretty good number three, I get third place on like a lot of different things, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I would say, becoming, I feel more well rounded, maybe. Um, okay, so that's interesting. Um, what is your, what makes you the most insecure?
Doing interviews.
Oh, really?
For real. I know that sounds like a joke answer, but yeah, it does. Like um I still get the jitters, whether
Mhm.
it's my interview or being a guest on like your interview. I'm like I'm like, am I gonna sound well, yeah, I'm gonna sound stupid, but can I play it off enough to where it comes across as like cheeky and fun, or is it just gonna be stupid? You know what I mean? Like you said, I am my own worst critic. And that goes not just after whatever I've done is done and I'm watching it, but beforehand, I'm like,
Hmm.
well, all right. I mean, and that said, like the okay, let's just go and have fun with it always wins out. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't the other stuff, beforehand. Like, yeah, I totally like,
Hmm.
how's this gonna go?
I wonder if this is almost more deep rooted. Like, do you think there's anything you could do to feel fully prepared for anything in life?
Never,
Never. Okay. Exactly. So,
never.
so I think this kind of bleeds into everything because it's also why you've been hesitant to book a certain trip that I know is you're trying to plan here. Uh, um, actually, you know what? That would be interesting. Do you want to tell the people the plan? I've said it on a bunch of podcasts, but do you want to from your own
You
mouth?
talking about the Maldives?
Yeah. Well, I know that's since evolved, but yeah, what's your grand plan?
Yeah. Oh, my dog just said hi. I don't know if you guys heard it.
Mhm.
The where is he? He's the CED, Chief Executive Dog.
What the why do you okay.
um,
Great.
Chief Executive Doggo. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I lost my train of thought. What was the question? Oh yeah, the vacation.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so originally my goal was to take Kim to the Maldives for our 25th anniversary.
Mhm.
Do the whole all expenses paid on points, that thing. Um, and then you guys, and by you guys I mean the big shots in the credit card community, have this stupid thing against hoarding points that she happened to latch onto and agree with. Like, earn them and burn them. So she's like, why are we saving all these points for something that's not going to be for like 6 more years? We could use them now. So now that has evolved into either Hawaii, which me personally, I'd rather not do Hawaii because we've already been once. I want to do something we haven't done. But next year on our 20th, maybe Hawaii, maybe Italy. A little scared to travel like outside of the country, um, which I understand, but also, oh well. Like, I mean, you gotta live and have the experiences, right? That's the thing. She's always like, you gotta have experiences. You can't like wait for this for tomorrow because you never know what's gonna happen if you have the opportunity to do it. Unless it's like traveling to like Europe, then she's scared about it. Which,
Hmm.
if I'm wrong, she'll probably put it in the comments and let everybody know that I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm talking about. But
Interesting. So it's like, isn't there a quote out there? Isn't there a quote that says like, "Life is what happens when you're busy making plans" or something like that?
never heard that.
I don't know. I heard I heard
I don't know what
I
you're talking
heard it.
about. I think you made that up. Sounds
Maybe I
stupid.
did. Okay, gotcha.
Yes, yes, something along those lines,
Something like
which
that.
I do agree with. As I'm getting older, I'm realizing like, all right, I need to do like I do need to start like living life because I mean it's finite. Eventually, it's not going to be here anymore. So I need to do what I can while I got it.
Yeah, you
So
worked so hard, for your life, up until this point. Like, you might as well, go enjoy things with the
yeah,
people you love. But you know,
yeah, for sure.
you're like, I don't want to talk about this. Let's just move on, Anthony.
No, 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 no. I'm totally cool talking about it.
It's like
That's
this is
just
the
my face. Sorry.
I know. No, it's so funny because I'm sure you guys have talked about this ad nauseum. But yeah, man, because I know because similar to you in the last year, I've changed my mindset on it. Like I was complete hoarder for everything. Uh, hoarder for nowadays it's of course points and whatnot, but it was hoarding other things, collectibles. But I've kind of come to realize, even since moving down to South Carolina, like okay, I can just leave my collectibles at home in New York. Now I'm like so completely uh, like I just have the car, and my suitcase and like a couple things of clothes, and I'm good. So I feel fully ready. I don't know. But the same with points. I'm like, points always come back, I guess, right? You open up a new card, you get more points,
Yeah.
and But in the meantime, I was able to take like these pretty cool trips recently, and then this year is going to be, the year of travel. So I don't know. I think it's just again, it's another thing. Like, just make that your obsession over the next year. Why not? Like, you jump in all these different directions, but what if one direction is just let's just see what happens if we travel for a year. That's interesting. And
Yeah.
then go back
No,
to hoarding
absolutely.
next year, maybe. Yeah.
I would
Hmm.
actually love to buy like one of those like bus like RVs and just
Really?
travel. That'd be amazing. Just Kim,
That
me,
would
and
be
the dog,
interesting.
which Kim would leave the dog out of it because she hates the dog. But yeah,
Well, you
and
could.
this is like after I'm not being a jerk and ignoring my son. This is after he like goes to college and doesn't live with us
Okay.
anymore.
Gotcha. That's funny.
But yeah, like that would man, I would love that life. Just kind of like if I could work remotely or just retire and not have to work, even better. And have the funds, that'd be amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, keep going with the YouTube channel. Maybe down the line, you never know. In a life not too distant, in a not so distant future, you could be traveling RV and podcaster. You could go to
Y-
everybody in person. That'd be cool.
You know what I'd really love to do, which I might
Hmm.
lose some people on this one. I'd love to live on a boat. I don't know anything
Hmm.
about boating, but but, but I think that just seems so cool. Like living on a boat, you pull up at a dock pier or whatever, sleep there for the night, go explore the town, eat at whatever little mom and pop restaurants they have, and then
Hmm.
go up the coast and find the next spot.
Hmm. I mean, you could experience that a little bit. I was thinking, like, for the lowest budget, you could actually book Airbnbs that are on like these mini yachts or maybe mini
Yeah,
boats, and they let you just sleep on there, and then you're on. I know in Florida they have a lot of them. I think in like Clearwater area, there's a lot of
yeah.
Airbnbs out there. I think that would be interesting. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I watch a lot of videos of people with yachts sometimes. Yeah, it's just so expensive.
Well, in our town, just a few miles north of me, there's actually a place where they work on yachts, and like they're just
Hmm.
parked there all the time. I pass them on my way to work, and these things are huge. They're like people own yachts that are like if you cut a cruise ship in half, like that's their yacht. Like
Yeah.
who owns that? Like
Yeah, that's nuts.
you could live your entire life and never see every room in your own boat.
That's wild. Yeah. Could you imagine? That is a crazy life. Huh. Um, although I will say, if I could put a suggestion in the hat, just came to me. If you want to take him somewhere, I feel like Santorini would be a nice place. I don't know. See, it's like
Where?
high class Santorini in Greece.
Oh, my sister lives in Greece.
Oh, okay. Hey, look at easy.
Yeah,
You don't even have to
yeah,
prepare for anything. You
easy
just go.
peasy. Yep.
I've been looking at some of the Hyatts out there. I'm like, these are like really high level, and the points aren't that expensive, and it seems like an
Yeah.
insane time. So I've been watching a bunch of stuff on that. Okay.
Greece is beautiful.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been, but you know, I talked to my sister like on FaceTime, and you know, and stuff. It's just like, man, that place is beautiful. I'd say I'd love to live there. I think I love the idea of living there. I don't know if I'd actually love to live
Hmm.
there.
Why? Maybe I'm curious. How did she even like move out there? Is that like what?
Oh,
You
that's
don't have to
going
talk.
into the history of my family. I'll give you the
Oh
short
no.
version.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I'll just give you the short version. I'm the only product of my father and my mother together. They were both married
Hmm.
previously. So I have a bunch of half brothers and sisters. And when my mom and her first husband got divorced, she went with him, and that's how she ended up in Greece.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Let's get some more Richie questions out here because I wanted to really hit you with these. Um, what's the what's the hardest thing you ever had to face, and how did you overcome it?
Ooh. The hardest thing I've ever had to face. Okay, I'll try to go deep without giving like specific examples because it's multiple occasions. Just
Hmm.
throughout my life, the hardest thing I've ever had to face is like betrayal by someone who I really like trust and love. And overcoming it is like, man, to be honest, like it's just kind of something for me. Like I know the right thing to do is, you know, um, to love and to forgive and to give grace and understand that everybody's human. You know, humans are sloppy and gross and stupid and ugly as human nature, but humans are also, you know, beautiful and wonderful. And um, you know, I'm sure beyond a shadow of a doubt, I've hurt plenty of people throughout my life, right? And you know, do would I want to be forgiven? Would I want some grace given to me? Yes, of course. Um, unless they really deserve it, but that's besides the point. Um, but yeah, so honestly, like anytime that I can think of where I was like really, really like oh god, you know, like you physically feel it in your heart. Like it's not just a
Hmm.
saying at that point. Like ow. Um, I knew what I had to do. Actually living it and actually giving that grace and loving through the pain and forgiving is is like most things much harder to do in actuality than to say. And I just kind of, I mean, I got there, you know, but it was just kind of fumbling and stumbling through it, you know, blind. I want to say blind. A lot of prayer, a lot of introspection. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if people probably didn't didn't want an answer that dark, but yeah, that would be it.
Got it. Got it. Um, what would you say? What was your biggest regret?
That answer that I just gave.
Okay.
Biggest regret, honestly, it's hard because one of the biggest regrets that's easy to think about would be the whole joining the military when Kim didn't want me to because it
Hmm.
absolutely, like, almost immediately turned around and slapped me in the face with the big "you're an idiot" sign. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that said, over the years, having gotten past the immediate whatever, now I do have some benefits of being a veteran. You know, I go to the VA. You know, whenever we go to a football game, they always ask me to stand up because I'm a veteran and people clap for me. So yeah, no, I hate that. I hate when that happens, and my family always like stand up. Um, but yeah, so that's probably the easiest one to think about because you know, like we talked about earlier, man, that just like immediately, like life just was like, nope.
Ugh, jeez.
Yeah,
God. Do you have
but
any
in the long
advice?
run, it turned out okay. Yeah,
Do you have
good.
any advice for those feelings and how to overcome those kind of feelings? Because I felt it myself, and the
Um,
only thing I found was time.
Yeah, I mean, time is a big one, and like I said about, you know, in the other question, like giving grace and forgiveness and loving through whatever for other people, you also have to be able to do that to yourself. I mean,
Mm,
more often than not, you have to do it for yourself and you have to do it for someone else, at least in my experience, because I am by no means the smartest, kindest, gentlest, most loving person in the world. Do I aspire to be? Of course, you know, but like I said, I'm a human. I'm sloppy, gross, ugly, stupid, you know. I make mistakes and a lot of times it's harder to forgive yourself because I don't know. Like when you have to forgive somebody else, you can get away from that person if you need to and kind of,
mm.
you know, you can never get away from yourself. So you're always in your own head. You're never going to forget what you did. You're never going to forget seeing the impact that that decision had on somebody else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
have you ever done anything where you actually see you like you do something and you see that person's heart breaking because you just did it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you don't have to actually answer, but I have, right?
Mm.
That is the worst feeling in the world, right? And it's something like, God, I wish I could like, you know, hop in a DeLorean and go back and,
Yeah.
you know, tell myself to pull my head out of my butt before it happens. You know what I mean? But um yeah, it's just it's work. It's not easy. I mean, unless you're like a person who just doesn't have feelings. but but yeah, it just you have to work through forgiving yourself and see, this is what I hate, man. This is what I hate about my own podcast. Like, this should have been like a 3-word answer. And what I've been talking for like a minute about it now.
That's what happens, man. That's what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, forgive yourself. There you go.
Okay, got it. Forgive yourself. All right, so now this is something that Richie likes to call. Actually, I don't know if I don't know if you call it this in the. You call it an hours, but I can't remember if you said in the newest ones. But rapid fire favorites.
Yep. Which to this day has not actually been rapid fire yet. So let's
No.
see. All right, let's go.
So I basically copy and pasted all the ones that you asked me. So let's see how yours come out. You ready?
Mhm.
Okay, first question. Favorite band?
Ah, favorite.
You
Well, here's the
ask these
thing.
questions. You don't
Here's
have
the
an
thing.
answer for them.
I don't have a favorite band. I really don't.
You and everybody else, pal.
Because I don't listen to music that much. I listen more to podcasts, and if I do listen to music, it's usually more along it's usually more along the lines of like a film score or classical music or something like that because that's usually when I'm like, you know, coming up with stuff. Like you will never find okay, I'll tell you what. If I have to pick one, Aha from the 80s. Aha.
Okay, okay. I'm not sure if I'm familiar, but I have to listen to it.
They'd sing Take on Me.
Oh,
That's my
okay.
favorite song.
That wait, Take on Me is your favorite song?
Take on Me is my favorite song.
Is it called Uh-huh?
That's the band.
Oh, it's the band name. Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim, you failed.
I know.
That was too good. That was
But
so
it
funny.
was in my defense, it's kind of like a trap question for me because there's no correct answer.
Hey, man, can't be worse than what I said on ours together.
No, that was still the best answer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to
Oh god.
everybody else who I've interviewed since then, but you stole the best answer to that question.
Let's go, baby. You gotta watch that. It's in the pinned comment. I forget when, but yeah, it's a great moment. Philmo says he's a Swiftie. Yeah. No, I don't know if he is.
No, definitely
I
not.
don't think so. Kim's the Swiftie
Definitely
in the
not.
relationship. What's going on, Caleb? Okay, so I guess in that same vein, what's your favorite podcast?
The Venture Capital Podcast.
Hey, there we go. Very nice. But really, what's your favorite podcast
Um,
outside of you know?
outside of yours, hmm, I like. This might be controversial. I don't listen to the whole podcast because I don't pay for Spotify, but I do listen to a lot of Joe Rogan clips. Um, I like his style, and I also like. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name. I don't know if it's Lex Friedman or Lex Friedman. There's no E, so I don't know if it's Friedman or not.
I
But
think Friedman. Yeah.
I like his podcast a lot.
Hmm.
He talks about a lot of interesting stuff.
Same. Yeah, I love his style.
Yeah,
His
yeah,
thumbnails and
yeah,
now is a conversation with Elon Musk.
yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah,
he's
exactly.
he's great. Um, yeah, I love Lex. He's very very cool. And
Yeah,
it's so funny. Like, oh, Joe Rogan's controversial now. Like, I haven't watched Joe Rogan in his podcast since like the first 100 episodes or something like that with people that I was watching at that time. Like every single absolute person of any faith, religion, creed, anything, all were on his podcast. It's like it's crazy
yeah,
that that's controversial now. He's had everybody. So how?
yeah,
And he doesn't really particularly push his point for the most part anyway. He just goes with what the person in front of him says, which is, I
right.
think, a good interview. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get some good stuff from that. Okay. So interesting. What about okay, so that's your yeah, right. So you said so that's your favorite song too? The Take on Me?
Yeah, which, like I said, honestly, a-ha is not my favorite band, but I just thought of my favorite song that's not like a
Okay.
score song, and I was like, "Who sings that?" Uh-huh, okay. But yeah, that's my
Okay.
favorite song, "Take On Me."
Okay. Favorite movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
Of course. Yes. Um favorite book?
Jurassic Park.
It's a book, really? Wow.
Mhm.
Favorite thing to do on a lazy Sunday afternoon?
Try to nap but fail miserably.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought you were gonna say
Yeah.
arrange furniture. Anyway.
Or, well, if it's football season, football.
Oh, okay, right. So you'll be doing
If
that
it's not
tomorrow
football
and
season,
everything.
try to sleep, but there's always something that interrupts it.
Gotcha. Um, okay. Favorite food?
Used to be steak, but now I'd probably say tacos
Wow, okay.
because, yeah, no high blood pressure. I gotta try and stay away from red meat.
Gotcha. Um, favorite place to vacation?
Anywhere my wife is. Ah.
Hey, very nice. There you go.
Um, no. So far, places I've been so far, Hawaii.
Okay. Yeah, I think you were in Maui, right? You
Yeah,
went there.
yeah.
Hmm. How was that, by the way? Because I'm gonna be going there not so in not so distant future.
Maui specifically.
Yeah.
Maui's awesome. Um, be careful of the sea urchins, which you saw on my podcast with Spencer. And be careful. There's this there's this place I call the Road of Death. Um, which
What?
Kim will know what I'm talking about. It's like this road where it's basically like just wide enough for one car, and it's on the side of the mountain, so it's like just a cliff into the ocean. But it's like all like windy, and you can't see anything around sharp corners. But traffic's going both ways on it.
Oh,
That was probably the scariest thing in my life. That was scarier than going to Iraq twice.
yeah. Is that the road to
Oh, there
Hana?
she
You
goes.
can
She put it in
just
there. Road
okay.
to Hana.
I've
Yeah, she
learned
put it in
about
the
this. I'm
comments.
not doing it. I've heard too many bad stories now. The locals screaming at you and whatnot if you're driving
Yeah,
like an
yeah,
American. I mean a mainlander, I should say. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I can imagine the road to Hana. Oh God. And did you finish the road to Hana? Did you go to act? Did you make it to Hana? little
I don't
town.
remember. Kim, did we? I don't remember. I
Photo
remember
friend.
laying down in the back seat. That's my memory of it.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay. Yeah, that favorite place to vacation is always a funny question because it's like maybe I haven't been there yet. My favorite place, but
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that's why.
I guess I should
Favorite.
add so
Mhm.
far.
Oh yes, so you guys did make it to Hana. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Um, favorite credit card issuer?
Ooh, it would have been Amex solid, but right now it's kind of in the air, man. I don't know.
Oh,
I just shot myself in the foot with 524. I was going to be out of 524 and get the Chase Freedom Flex next month, but I just got him and me both the Saver one, so now I'm not
hmm.
going to be under 524 until January of next year.
Jeez.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, it's hard to tell. I guess right now I'll still go with Amex, but it seems like they're trying hard to change my mind about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, we had an interesting comment. FNAF man. He said, "If you say something really weird and messed up, I will donate $3,500 dollars." I figured it's specific enough that we at least should try. Uh, why 3,500? Do you have anything weird or messed up that you would want to say so I can earn some money here today?
I have a lot of weird and messed up things to say, but I
I
have
know.
to try and remember
Maybe let's do it
like the
this way.
audience.
Maybe here your answer can be part of this next question, which is
Okay.
I meant to do this later, but why not? Let's do it now.
Oh,
Um,
I know what's coming.
hey Richie, what would you say is the worst way to die?
Okay. So my answer is probably going to be disappointing, like I feel most of my answers have been today. And again, it's probably going to be boring and maybe a little bit darker than people want to hear. But to me, the worst way to die is probably something along the lines of like a neurodegenerative disease like dementia or Alzheimer's, right? Uh, and maybe it hits a little closer to me because I have it on both sides of my family. So
Hmm.
it's something I'm concerned about for myself, obviously. Right? But just the thought of like over time, like losing your loved ones, even though they're right there, like they're not going anywhere, but you begin to forget who they are. You know, your love, like your wife, your children become strangers to you. Um, and you just slowly regress, almost like, you know, mentally you regress back to like an infant. Like last year here in where I live, um, there was a Alzheimer's patient who they found dead in the back seat of the car, and they're assuming like this person just whatever was going on in their mind, they were like going to get in the car to wait to go somewhere, and they just ended up cooking to death in the hot Florida sun in the back seat of a car. You know what I
Jeez,
mean? So that like, dude, I hate being so dark, but you asked the question.
you
Um,
love being
but that scares the crap out of me. Like that's terrible, isn't it?
yeah,
Like, I mean, look, I don't want to be eaten. I don't want to catch on fire. I don't want to, but all that stuff is pretty quick compared to like years of like regressing into nothingness.
yeah, yeah. I could see that because it's like you'll be fully aware of it, and then 99% aware, and then 98% aware, and then eventually to you're not.
Yeah.
But all that time, like, well,
Yeah.
didn't that happen? Or why am I here? I remember I was working at Stop and Shop in New York. I was a card pusher. I remember one time I walked out, just walked out. I was just working, and this older guy, maybe 80s, he walked out and he just looked at like he was fully normal. He was just walking out with his groceries, and then all of a sudden he stopped. He looked around. And he says, "Where am I?" And I just looked at him, I was like, I mean, he
Yeah.
he didn't ask me, he just said he's like, "Literally, where am I?" And then I forgot what happened, he just, like, kept walking or something, but it's like, "Man, you were just fine." How did that happen? Jeez.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that, okay.
Have you ever have you ever woken up somewhere and just for like a moment, like when you wake up, you just kind of forget where you are just for like a split second?
Yeah.
Imagine that being your life, like at any random moment every day. Isn't
Yeah,
that
that's
horrifying?
especially when you turn your brain off and you just drive, or you're listening to a podcast. You're like, "Oh, I got here. How
Yeah.
do you remember the
Oh,
turns
yeah,
I made to
wait,
get
I'm
here?"
home? What? Yeah.
It's it's funny what the mind does when it's occupied. I mean, that's why like these magicians and pickpockets are so good. Just misdirection. And then it's
Yeah,
just I'm looking over here. I only have one focus center. My brain can only focus on one thing at a time. Especially me. That's like kind
right.
of how I am. Like I can't multitask and stuff. One thing. It's like okay, got your wallet. And it's scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely. I would say that is one. Yeah, very scary thing for me as well. I still stand by my answer though, which is being tortured for like 30 years by a guy from
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, that's something that's, like, not quick, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, I
that's
think
right.
I think
It's
the amount
true.
of time plays into it a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. But then I also wonder if there's a component of you become like what is it? And no matter what the stimuli is within what is it like 2 months you become fairly um I don't know, your levels become level. Again, you revert to the norm or revert to the mean no matter what. So if it's really bad situation, you eventually become normal. If it's really good, you'll eventually become normal. So it's like
Oh, really?
maybe there's a world where even if you're being tortured for 30 years, you just still revert to the mean, and this just becomes my existence, and that's just how I live. It's scary.
Alright, let's get it over with.
Right? Because then even if you think about it, like during maybe Holocaust or something like that, and you're waiting on that line for some bread, and you're like, wow, I got 2 pieces of bread today. You're over the moon. Like this is the best day of your life
Yeah,
ever.
yeah,
The perspective is everything.
yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's weird how humans are like how we're like that. God damn it, Mr. How did you end up on the wrong chat?
That's,
Please just
I was watching that.
Mr's too crazy, man. And you change your profile picture too, looking good. Um, that's funny. Okay, interesting. Okay, good. We got that question. I also wanted to ask. Oh yeah, that's right. There was also a really important question before we get into some other important questions, and then
Okay.
we'll be fine. Another one that is one that you gave me many times over. Last time I switched between streams. Emma, what are you watching? Anyway, this is a question that you've given. Well, I've stolen from you, and you've given to me, and I've used it upon many podcasts, and I am so happy I could finally ask you in the flesh, or digitally. The
Yeah.
question is: boxers, briefs, or zipperless pants?
Well, I think you just said you wanna ask me in the flesh, so why don't we just wait?
Just wait. Just wait. Yeah, let's wait for the naked
Just
body
wait
comment
just
again.
wait till we meet in person.
Oh my god,
Um,
that's true. Yeah.
so it used to be boxers, and then it transitioned to boxer briefs, and now it's briefs. I find support becomes more important.
Yeah, you know what? After I learned about this, I really changed my stance a little bit since talking to Chase Yokoyama because he mentioned that you can get some collateral damage if you have boxers because you're basically, it's like hitting potholes on a car, right? A lot of people dying out there, down below. So I was like, huh, maybe it should be a little more protected, but I'm
Yeah.
still
Dude,
with
there is
boxers.
back in the boxers days, there was, um well, 1 is more than enough, but there was more than enough, run-ins with a zipper that I was like, "Yeah, never again."
Oh, jeez.
But then I would didn't switch and I did it again.
Oh God.
Um, but dude, so I found out the other day 'cause, so, my job, I work in nuclear security. Uh, a lot of guys I work with, I just found out they make these underwear that they're like briefs, but they have, like, a little pouch that you can store things in, and it keeps everything, like, separate and breezy, and I'm like, "I might need to make an investment." I don't know what they're called, but I'm like, "That sounds intriguing."
I don't understand though. How do they have in just the underwear? They have a compartment for like putting things.
Yeah,
How's that? How,
yeah,
how
I
does it hold
mean,
up?
I guess your
It's got to be.
underwear probably looks like a little elephant or something. I don't know.
kangaroo pouch. Um,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Yeah, it's just like a
Huh.
little pocket that
Yeah,
you
I need a I need a spot for my gun in my boxers.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh god, Jesus, debauchery. Um, there we also before some of the ending questions, I also wanted to ask. Oh, I also want to ask, why did you change it from zipperless pants to commando? I'm upset about that.
'Cause nobody knew what zipperless pants meant.
That's the point.
Like
That's the best part.
like, nobody's ever heard that idiom before, apparently, except for the people I hung out with.
Yeah. Okay. That's funny. Cesar in the Discord wanted to ask you personally. He said, Richie, are you cute or handsome?
I don't know, Kim, am I cute or handsome? She's probably not watching anymore, so this might go nowhere.
Mm.
Me
So,
personally, I
yeah.
would say I would say I aged out of both of those a few years ago, but,
Well, let me ask then.
um,
Do you know how to tell by Cesar?
how to tell by s oh, I remember, but I don't remember.
So,
Is it
Kim says
age?
handsome.
Handsome.
No, it's by height.
Height,
So
that's right.
if you're 6 foot or
So,
above, he said you look
looks
cute.
cute.
So if you're 6 foot or above, you're handsome. 5'11" and shorter, then you're cute.
So this depends on what official documentation you look at. If you look at the
Mm.
military and all my paperwork there, I am exactly 72 inches, 6 foot.
Ooh.
If you look at my civilian doctor paperwork, I am 5'11 and a half. So,
It's a big spread.
so I either lost an inch or or half an inch, or it was that
Jeez.
zipper incident.
So Cesar, what do you do in that situation, Cesar? If he's you know like I don't have that. I'm not on the edge. I'm like my driver license says 5'10". I think I'm 5'9". I'm cute no matter what. So like, what do you do when you're on the fringe there? That's interesting. Kim said you
Yeah,
got better with age. Hell yeah.
like a fine
So
wine.
he's just weird.
Just weird. Yeah,
What? What?
that's the
That's the in
consensus, I
between.
guess. That sounds
Okay.
about right.
Jesus. Okay. That's funny. Another question from the Discord, Kid Cat. He wanted to ask you, which something you mentioned earlier about your favorite issuer. He said, "How do you expect Amex to either ruin or elevate the charge card lineups of the Amex Green, Gold, Platinum?"
Dude, I don't even know, man. I mean, they've already kind of taken a step backwards with the whole family language and now adding it to the green card. Um,
Mm,
I hate to say it, but I don't see it getting better. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like all their decisions so far, I honestly do believe they might just be trying to purge a certain group of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really do feel that way because everything they're doing just looks like it. Maybe not. Maybe they just got some really bad decision makers working up there. But it looks like they're intentionally trying to purge a subset of people. And I think, I'm going to get to the point. I was talking to my wife earlier about whether or not we should cancel the gold card. Um, and I never thought I'd be asking myself that question. Which, if you want to know what she thinks, you can check. Well, I guess I just spoiled who my special guest is. Good job, Richie. Yeah, so I did an episode of Beyond Credit with my wife, which should be up tonight.
Mhm.
So if you want to know what she thinks about the gold card, watch that.
I'll be watching for sure. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I think for sure you're right. I mean, I really don't think. I think Ninja in the Discord's right. I don't think there's really any. Uh, I really think that. Um, anyway, man, what is crazy, man? We're hitting like a weird algorithm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every once in a while, I glance down and I'm like, "What is going
Yeah,
on?"
this isn't normal. It must be the title that I made and everything. So we're pushing out to a lot of different areas. I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's anything that they're gonna be doing that, people are gonna like, and I think Ninja might be right, like, I don't know if there's ever been a card that, has gotten better necessarily over time. It seems like, you know, I'm not sure. John came in with a super chat. Because you have such awesome guests
Oh.
like Joe Satriani, is that oh no, is that something I have to look up? Who's Joe Satriani? Do you look like him? Might have to look this up. Hold up. I could do it on the second phone. Joe
I got my
Satch.
laptop right here. I'll pull it up. This is
American
going to be the most
guitarist.
intriguing part of the podcast. You me looking up some dude.
Look! Ah!
I can't. Oh, yeah, well, I don't know, man. Let me go grab a guitar real quick.
Grab the guitar. That is, man, it's like a cross between Bezos and, yeah, maybe the CEO. That is so funny.
Wow, that
Joe
is funny.
Satriani. Oh Lord.
Dang, that's kind of uncanny looking at my
Freaking
computer.
glasses, man.
Wow,
And sunglasses. Like, jeez.
right?
Kim's laughing. Thank you, Joe, for that. That's great. It's great. Some awesome guests.
That was a good one, John.
That is so funny. Thank you so much for the super chat, man. There's a lot of stuff happening around me right now. What's going on here? There's people converging on me. Got a lot. Anyway, oh wait, I put this away. Who's behind my car right now? Oh, I'm over here charging up the car. Okay, so Kid Kat also wanted to ask you, since you're the CEO, can he get a promotion to COO to your company?
Promotion to COO. What? That's Chief Operating Officer. I don't know. What does he have to offer? What can he bring to the table?
That's right. We'd have to ask Kid Kat.
I mean, I can't just answer that on a whim.
Kid Kat's a great guy. He's I think he's like well, one of his main defining attributes is I think he's 6'5". So like that's worth something.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I can't have an underling taller than me. No, get out of here. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
What are you even doing asking that question?
Sorry.
It's ridiculous.
Mickey asks, "Are these two a couple?" Yes. So, of course. What's up, Mickey Mouse? How you doing? Anyway, man, there's a lot of cars around here. All right, so we're coming to a close here, and I have a few other questions to ask you.
Okay.
We did go through like I can't do the same thing. Like, oh wait, no, zipperless pants question. I do want to ask you, however, it's kind of heavy, so I'm trying to brace you, right? Goals in life, grand goals. Ritchie, what would you say is your grand goal in life? Something you need to achieve before you are leaving this earth?
Is it a cheat to say, if I'm honest, I feel like I already did it?
No.
No? Okay. So my grand goal in life that I feel like I've already done would be to make sure that I had a positive impact on the people closest to me and taught my children what it means to be good people. And I know good people is a really generic term and subjective, but in general, to love, to give grace, all those things I said earlier that are like really hard to do when somebody hurts you. Like, and my wife and me, Kim and me, were talking about this earlier. Like, I don't know how, but somehow we did a really good job with our kids. Like, our kids are genuinely good, loving, caring people. And somehow, like, both of our kids are like bangers, man. Like, our kids are good looking. I don't know how that happened. Like, I mean, because the weird thing is, right, like, Kim is, out of the two of us, Kim is definitely like the attractive one. But my daughter, oddly enough, looks like me. But she's like an attractive kid. My son kind of floats right between us. He's like a good looking dude. I'm like, how did this happen? I want a DNA test. um,
Yeah, right. You on
but
the Maury show. You were not the father.
but yeah, right. No, but seriously, yeah, like I feel like the most important thing to me would be like teach my kids that you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna fall and things are gonna happen that you don't like. Sometimes you're gonna be responsible for it, but no matter what happens, as long as you're alive, breathing, you can always change it, right? And I don't mean like necessarily like change it, like God forbid, like you run over someone or something. You can't change that, but I mean, you can. You know, words are hard. You know what I'm getting at? Be good people.
Gotcha. And that would be, I would say, your message to the world if you were going to give one. It's just
No, that would be
hmm.
get a credit one card.
Okay. All right. Anyway, thank you so much for being here,
John, maybe you don't want a
folks.
DNA test.
Oh no, yeah, right. Oh Lord. Uh, Damn, Rishi, that was a solid answer, man. Yeah, I love that. That's so funny. Oh, God, credit one. How you gonna ruin yourself like that? Come on, man. Such a great way to go. Oh man. This was amazing, man. This was a lot of fun. I
Yeah,
hope
man,
I
it's
gave you the space to well give you all the questions that you asked me, and hopefully I
yeah,
did your job well enough. You know.
it's definitely on this side of the hot seat. Oh my gosh, can you guys hear my dog?
Yeah.
There must be like an army of squirrels or something outside because he
Mm.
won't stop. Apologize for that, guys. But anyway, yeah, no, dude, this was awesome. First of all, you're always fun to talk to, um, and yeah, yeah, it is weird being on this side. Oh, by the way, this hasn't been on the whole time. I've just been talking through these.
Oh no.
So,
Unreal. Oh god. Nice watch though, by the way. Very nice.
well, thank you. It is. Let's see, I just got it. It's a Dolphins watch.
Is
They
that a
just stopped
Dolphins? Oh wow.
making it. Yeah, I got like one of the last five.
Hmm. Not bad. Not bad.
So
Huh.
yeah,
Uh yes, John definitely has some great things today. But yeah, I want to say, that's all the questions I have for you. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about or bring up at all?
I just want to know now that this is done. Once we go off and everything, I want to know um, what Kate's opinion was because Kate has become um, my measure.
Yeah.
Like you're always like, yeah, Kate really liked when you did this, and I'm always like, ah, yay. So
Okay.
she's her opinion has become my measure of how things are going. So I'm interested to see what her opinion of this whole thing was.
Sounds good. Yeah, she
I
wanted
know,
to watch this, but she's out at the moment. But normally she would have, yeah, she would have watched it through. But well, she'll watch that and tell you what you did right, what you did wrong, all
yeah,
that.
I know Kim will give me an honest opinion. She'll say, what was good and what wasn't good, but she also hurts my feelings. So.
Okay, yeah, that's all right. I feel like her and Kate might be a little similar. I think that's fun. Okay, that's great, man. Well, I appreciate you even doing this with me and opening up about certain things and answering some of these crazy questions. It's always fun,
Yeah, man,
likewise, talking to you. And everybody who
for
is here
sure.
today, like John, Cesar, random algorithm stuff going on here. Kim, appreciate you being here. Um, uh, MR, of course, with switching things up. Phil, John, obviously for the super chat. I really appreciate you, man. Um,
Oh,
hmm,
do I like One Piece? So I've never watched the show, the cartoon, but I did watch the Netflix live action One Piece. I enjoyed that.
hmm.
As someone who's probably a One Piece cartoon fan, I don't know if that's sacrilege and if that's offensive. If it is, I'm sorry. But I really enjoyed the live action show. So
Yeah, I wonder. I watched the cartoon, but I can't remember anything about it now. Um, but I can imagine, like, if you only watch the Avatar live action and you never watch the cartoon, yeah, I would say that's a big problem. It's,
yeah,
until the new one comes out, the 22nd, I can't wait. You've been sending
yeah,
me stuff from that. I cannot wait. Oh,
yeah.
it's gonna be so good. My
I
new
hope
life is
that's really
upon me.
good for you, Anthony. I really hope that's like amazing for you.
Thank you, man. That's all I've been waiting for. I just can't wait. I don't think it can beat the cartoon, but
Yeah,
what can you do? Yeah, I think it'll be
yeah.
fun nonetheless. I'm hoping I can unlock something new, get to the next level of life, but we'll see. Oh, and Chad said One Piece. Never heard of it. Yeah, it's an old cartoon. A guy named Luffy and has like long arms and stuff. I think they're like pirates too. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
thank you again, Richie, for being here. And I guess I'll see everybody next Saturday for another guest. And for you guys, it's going to be Constantinos, which I'm excited. It's been a long time coming
Ooh,
to have him again.
again.
If there ever
Nice.
all his Amex cards are canceled on him, I want to get the aftermath. So it's
Ah, I'm
unless
excited for
something
that
happens
one.
to this, but absolutely. But yeah, thank you again, everybody, and Richie, and yeah, I guess I'll see you next Saturday.
All right. Bye, guys.
Take care.